So I'm back here again, believe it or not. As you can probably tell, I'm not live recording the footage. The reason being, if I open Minecraft, it will break my computer as of recently. So yeah, this is some old footage of mine. Anyway, I wanted to talk about the fact that I'm done with my first year of college, and you see me sort of documenting my feelings towards it. But when we got to the halfway point, I kind of stopped making as many videos, and that was because I was more busy. And now that it's over, I just want to go through all the stuff that I couldn't talk about, and I just want to really talk about the lessons that I've learned. So I'm going to start that now. I don't want to waste anybody's time, and I'm actually kind of hoping this video gets some decent views. So, here are the specific lessons that I learned during my first year of college. The first thing that I learned starting out, really, this was consistent throughout the first semester, but it was the first thing I learned. I learned what it was like to be lonely. I was lonely during high school, as you would probably know once again if you watch my previous videos. But the difference is, I was also on my own. And I felt kind of lonely even in my room, even with my roommates, in a way, because I didn't really know them at the time. And I didn't talk to anyone in my classes, and I just didn't talk to anyone really. It felt actually lonely, and it felt like nobody cared, and it was a weird feeling. It was a bad feeling, but it was a lesson to be learned because while I had previously thought that I was lonely, it was never to this extent. This was something that I had never known about before. And yeah, this was something that really persisted throughout the first semester of college, and be prepared for it. Because even though everybody says college is the most social place, it can be like that, or it can be lonely, like it was for me. And I've heard some people say it's even lonelier and so much worse than the experience that I had at first. Second thing I learned, and this will not apply to everyone, but the second thing I learned was how to take care of myself. As I've talked about before, just kind of the way that I was raised in a way. At 18, just going into college, I didn't know how to do most things. I wasn't really good at laundry, or actually, that's kind of the biggest thing that you have to do when you're in college. Or even fucking feeding myself on time. Or folding clothes. Once again, it's still mostly laundry related stuff, but I didn't really know how to do basic things because I just had never really had to do them before due to the fact that I wasn't on my own. So I had to learn that pretty quickly. I did kind of learn how to do that effectively after I learned what it was like to be lonely. The loneliness, that feeling started within the first few weeks. Actually being able to take care of myself, that was like the first month. But there isn't really much to say about that. However, on the topic of laundry and taking care of myself, the third thing that I learned was absolutely hating my living conditions. I lived in this absolutely terrible dorm room. I might post pictures of it at some point just because it was that bad, but the room was tiny. And for a couple weeks we got moved to a bigger one, which that was nice, but the room that we were in was too small for even one person, I'd say. Definitely it's not even much bigger than the room that I'm in now at my parents' house. And there were three of us in it. Now, besides that, I also want to bring up having to do laundry in the public laundry rooms. That sucked ass. Because, people wouldn't set their timers, or if you were 2 minutes late to getting your laundry, they would put your shit on the floor or on top of the washing machine, and it was just really weird. I lost a couple shirts in the laundry. Pretty sure they got stolen. But that was second semester. But yeah, that was another thing that I hated, as well as the fact that the laundry room literally flooded at some point. There was also an ant infestation inside of our room at some point, and this will be another video. This is something that I've referenced throughout a lot of my videos that I just couldn't talk about. My roommate. I have two roommates. Both of them have made an appearance in my videos. And one of them made a big appearance in one of my Skyblock videos, and that roommate is super cool, and I'm glad that we got to be roommates together. But my other roommate, not so much. He was a dick, and I will get into detail on that soon, but having to live with that guy and sleep a few feet away from that guy, oh my god, it was crazy. I hated it. He wasn't just a dick as a person, he was somewhat not easy to live with. And yeah, I feel like that's kind of how it ends up. And when I was moving out, my dad literally commented on the fact that I didn't say bye to him when I left. And yeah, that's really weird, but I'm just saying he barely even acknowledged me or my other roommate the entire year. So I figured it was about on par for our relationship for me to not even say bye. Alright, need to take a breather. I'm just kidding. Anyway, the fourth lesson that I learned was nobody really cares about me, or nobody really cares about you from the perspective of the person listening to this. And this is something you've probably heard in the past. Whenever you feel insecure or self conscious and you care what people think of you, someone might say, oh, they don't actually care because they're too busy thinking about themselves. They might also feel self conscious and that's what they're thinking about. Or they might be thinking about themselves in an egotistical way. So they aren't really paying attention to you. That is true. That is definitely true. And that's true during college as well. And it's also a bad thing because, well, I feel like if people did care about me, I would at least get more social interactions during the early to mid parts of my first year of college. But another aspect of that I want to talk about is the fact that your professors do not care about you nearly as much as your teachers do. When you're in high school, or at least when I was in high school, I did go to an especially small school. I went to an early college school, dual enrollment school, where even though the teachers treated us a lot more independently, like we were college students, there was also about 150 kids total, proportionate to like, seven, eight teachers, like two counselors, one principal, stuff like that. So they knew us a lot more personally. When I started doing bad in school because I didn't give a shit, my teachers called a meeting, all of them, to come talk to me about what was happening. And they learned of my mental health issues, and they all were like, okay, we'll go lenient. I just want to help you get through this. Same with my principal. Everyone was extremely understanding, and even though I wasn't even on board to help myself, they were all on board to help me anyway. And it worked. It worked. I got through my junior year, and it was nice. Now, as for college, I kind of knew that this was coming, but it still, in a way, shocked me. When I stopped caring because I was sad, and, well, I was sad about the things that I talked about in my videos during the first semester, they still tried to help me a little bit once I talked to them. Once I talked to them, they were like, okay, well, you can make up these assignments. Good luck. I hope you're able to do that. They don't really give a shit if you fail. Neither does the actual school. If you fail too much one semester, you'll get put on academic probation. If you do it again, you get kicked out of the school, and that's that. They don't care. There's a lot of students, and they don't benefit that much from having some kid who fails every class anyway. So yeah, they don't give a shit about you. People, your peers, don't really give a shit about you unless they're actually your friends. That, I feel like, was one of the most important ones that I learned. Now, the fifth thing that I learned, this was, I'd say, the end of first semester to the beginning of second semester, was that you actually have to try. You have to try in a lot of ways, but I want to focus on academically, you have to try. This is another thing that I've heard a lot from college students or former college students. They say stuff like, oh, I didn't try at all in high school, I still passed. Same with me. I didn't pass with flying colors or anything, but despite not turning in a single piece of homework for a couple of my classes, I would still get a B. As for college, you can't do that. Some people can, but just assume you won't be able to do that. Not that it's a good thing to do anyway, but Generally, the vast majority of people in college can't do that. You don't have to study your ass off, but if you turn in your assignments, then you should be good usually. I didn't turn in my assignments, and I was not good. I did not do well the first semester. This semester, I did okay. That actually, I think, is about everything for that lesson. The sixth lesson that I learned was what it was like to really want to quit. The first semester, I was very miserable in college, but I figured I have no choice. I'm going to have to stay here. My parents paid for this. They want me to go to college. In fact, they need me to go to college. I don't have a choice. I definitely can't drop out. But then I was talking to one of my friends who went to a different school, a more traditional college experience school. And he's like, just transfer here. I have an apartment. I have spare rooms. You can move in with me. We'll live together. We'll go to school. It'll be awesome, you know. There's a lot of parties here. The people are nice. A ton of social stuff. And I thought, damn, that sounds really good. I'm just going to get through the semester and then I'm going to leave. And that's that. If I don't get into that school, I'm going to go back home, go to community college, and then I'm going to transfer to that school because I cannot stand being here for more than another semester. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm failing again. Fuck it. There's no point in me even being here. I might as well just drop out and become a loser. Might as well become the kind of person that I was expecting to anyway, just based off the pessimism in my videos. Might as well start it early. Gonna start working a minimum wage job, then going home, and then drowning my sorrows in alcohol and drugs, just like most people of my generation do. Maybe not most, but everybody watching this, you probably know at least one person like that. They work a shitty job, and then they blow their entire paycheck on alcohol and weed and crack and acid and mushrooms, and then that's all they do. That's their only hobby. I think most of us know a person like that, and I was always convinced that was just going to become me, even though I hated the idea so much. And the seventh thing I learned, the last thing I learned, was what it was like to actually get the things that I wanted, to actually have the social life that I wanted, to actually have the motivation to go to my classes, to actually experience the things that I didn't get to experience during high school, nor the first semester of college, to get to experience the things that everyone said that I would, that I really wanted to, that I want to more than anything. In getting more into detail with that, I met my friend group who I was with for the rest of the semester about a month and a half in, right after I'd gotten home from being sick the first time. And I just want to say I've been very sick for the last week or so. But the first time I got back from being sick, I met someone I had met and someone I had actually talked about on here during the first week of school. We met during the first week of school and hadn't really seen each other until a couple months into the second semester, and I met a lot of people there, including the girl who ended up becoming my girlfriend. Not my first girlfriend, not the one who I had talked about, not the abusive one. And yes, that's also another story for another video, if anything, even though I did explain it. But someone else, and someone who taught me a lot about that kind of stuff. So I had friends, I had a girlfriend, I had motivation to go to classes. I was meeting people, I was going to the concerts that were at school, and I was practicing guitar a lot more, stuff like that. And I also experienced some drama, which is interesting. But, like, if I'm being honest, I'm not someone who cares for drama. And I don't mean that in the sense that I dislike it. I mean it in the sense that I'm indifferent towards it, and I find it slightly amusing, about 5% amusing. I find drama to be neither good nor bad, but 5% entertaining. And I know that makes me sound like a psychopath, but it's just kind of the way that I am. So experiencing it was a very slight positive. At least something was happening. And it was nice because Rather than going to my classes, if I could even get myself out of bed, and then eating some shit, either some fast food that was on campus or going to the dining commons and risking getting food poisoning, then going home, and by home I mean the dorm room, writing music, which that was the one good thing, sitting on my computer, maybe making videos, going to bed, and not being able to sleep because I didn't do anything throughout the day. Rather than that, I was hanging out with my friends, hanging out with my girlfriend. And then during the late night, because she also had a kind of crazy sleep schedule like I did, we would hang out with a different group of friends, a couple groups of friends, in the lobby of our dorm. And it was just really nice because we would talk and we would laugh about shit. Sometimes it would be late and it's just like, fuck it, let's go walk around, you know? Or it's like, fuck it, let's go off campus, let's go get food. Usually not late at night though. That would be kind of weird. But it kind of, if anything, this ideal college experience that I had during the second semester reminded me more of the high school experience that I didn't get to have. That's kind of how other people I described it to saw it as well. They're like, oh yeah, that reminds me a lot more of how people described high school. Older people who actually got to have a more high schoolish experience. That's how they described it. It felt like a mix of the high school experience that a lot of people have and the college experience that a lot of people have. And I'd say that that was sort of how it was from late March to now. And even though it's only been a month and a half since then, I valued that month and a half a lot. And once again, everybody will go at their own different pace for that. I feel very fortunate that I had those experiences during the end of my second semester of college. I've heard a lot of people say that they don't get that until junior year of college, or some people don't get that at all. I was fortunate, but don't feel terrible if you don't get that immediately. Try not to be like how I was, because things happen when you least expect them, or they happen when you do expect them. But they do happen. They happen eventually. If you can force yourself to keep going, then force yourself to keep going. And I no longer feel like that person who missed out on a bunch of stuff. All those things that I complained about missing out on in the past, I have experienced now. And that being said, I want to segue into a sort of different topic that I want to talk about for the rest of this video. I want to talk about my channel. I want to really, really talk about my channel. And first of all, no, I'm not quitting. I've made a lot of videos where it sounds like I'm quitting. No, I'm not. But I want to actually make changes now. Once again, as I talked about in my last video, this channel was built on things going wrong. This channel was built on me being a lonely, slightly miserable person who didn't get the things that I want. And it was also built on me being an inexperienced person, me being both mature and immature at the same time. That's how people have sort of described me in my videos. It's like, you're clearly a kid, but you have more foresight and more maturity than most kids your age. That's kind of how people have described me. Thing is though, I don't feel like much of a kid anymore. I got through a year of college. I can take care of myself now. I'm learning to drive. I've experienced things that adults have experienced and things that teenagers have experienced. I can get myself out of bed, I can get myself ready, and I feel like I'm up for getting a job somewhat soon. I don't feel like a kid anymore, and because of that, I feel like I also want to mature away from exactly how my videos are. I think it'll stay similar, but not exactly the same. I don't want to exclusively be a Minecraft channel anymore, and I think I want to get away from the no editing philosophy and the low effort thumbnails. The thumbnails may sometimes still be low effort. The videos may sometimes still be unedited. But the main point I want to make is, while this channel did have a specific purpose, At the same time, I also view it as just being my personal channel. My personal channel where I upload personal things about myself. Unlike my other channels, which I will also talk about very shortly. And I feel like a new chapter is going to start. I feel like Mob Talks, the series, the first season of Mob Talks, I think it's over. I think this is the last video of Mob Talks. And you can go rewatch it if you want. If you actually view it as a series in a series that you enjoy, I would appreciate that. That would be very nice. I don't know if anybody actually keeps up with all my videos. I know that people say that they do, but I don't know if it's actually true. So yeah, this is the conclusion of Mob Talk Season 1. For the future, the videos might be Minecraft. They might be a different game. They might be a black screen. They might be, who knows, they might be an animation. Or I might have my webcam on. Either way, I still think I'm going to tell stories. And I think my next video is going to be about the stories of my roommate. But I don't want to have a strict set of guidelines for my channel anymore because I think that that's over now. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about is my other channels. Now, believe it or not, I have a lot of channels. This is my biggest channel. This is bigger than all of my channels combined, all of my other channels combined. But I have a music channel where I upload music related things. That one is just called Mobsmasher. That's the actual name that I go by on here. And that was my first channel. And then I also have my channel for my band, my musical project, Always Like This. And then I also have a variety gaming channel called Mob Games Real, but that one I don't upload on much. And then I also have a secret channel, which I'm not going to give the name of, to be honest. But I really want to focus on the Mob Smasher channel and the Always Like This channel, because now that I'm home, I can write music again with my instruments, and the Mob Smasher channel, sometimes it's music editing, but more importantly, I like to make documentary style videos on more alternative music, but I haven't done that in a long time because I didn't have the motivation to. And I want to start working towards that again, and I want people to see those. And if music documentaries interest you, please give the channel not even a subscribe, but just give it a thought. Think, okay, I'm going to check this channel every once in a while. I'll link the two channels that I've been working on or I've been wanting to work on in the description, and I'll also link my link tree for both this channel as well as my music. Alright, Mob Talks out. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know what? For old time's sake, of course. Comment. Comment stress ball. Yeah, stress ball. For once, it's not an item in my inventory. I don't know what's in my inventory because it's not live footage. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you especially if you watched till the end and enjoyed my rambling. Thank you to anyone who's new and watching. And thank you to anyone who's still going to stick with me even though my content is changing. And thank you to anyone who's happy for me because my life has changed for the better. Goodbye.